everybody, how's it going? So tonight we're going to talk about some money-making ideas that you can sell in your shop and support your little hobby habit, or start to build a business or expand your business, whatever you want to do. But these are 5 different examples I'm going to show you in categories that I've sold with my FDM printers, my resin printers, and my laser cutter. You can adapt these to basically do a combination thereof. You can adapt some of these from like the laser cutter over to a CNC, vice versa, and you can mix and match. And so we'll go through 5 different examples of products that I've sold on my Etsy and eBay shops in the past. These are all products or categories of products that I've made money on consistently. I think with a little bit of a tiny little bit of thought and some creativity, you can make your own recipe on these and make some scratch, no problem. So why don't we dive into it here? First category for sure is hitch covers. Boy, hitch covers are consistent sellers. I sold tons and tons of hitch covers. The key was around this hitch insert, which I'll show you here in a second. But finding something to attach to that insert, man, sky's the limit, right? Capitalize on a trend. Find something cool and unique about your state. Do a cutout of your state. Anything. But anything that you can think of can pretty much, whether it's 2D or 3D or 2.5D, whatever you want to call it, can go on a hitch insert, right? And you can sell hitch covers, no problem. My advice to you would be make sure you print them out of either PETG or ABS or ASA, something that can hold up to the elements. I like to think about something going on a car in Texas in the summer. It's got to be able to stand up. And so I don't like printing in. I don't have really the capability to print in ABS or ASA. I don't have a good printer with an enclosure like that. So PETG was the next best option. I would avoid printing something going on a car outside in PLA. It's just going to break down. It's not going to last one Texas summer before it starts to poker chip or potato chip and fall apart. This was a dead simple PETG print. Printed all in one go, and basically I just masked the whole thing off and then spray painted the site silver. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Here's another variation on a hitch cover. This hitch insert is what I was referring to a second ago. So this was my design of a hitch insert. I designed this to be extremely basic, extremely functional, right? Because all it had to do was basically hold on to this thing. And be able to fit in just about any 2-inch receiver. So it's 3-sided, meaning there's no top. I just had 2 sides, a bottom, and then a front plate to basically attach the face onto. I could print these in like just about 2 hours, and I had one printer dedicated to doing nothing but hitch inserts. That printer, that Ender 3, I think I wore out. It was always loaded with black PETG. It had one file on the SD card, and it was this hitch insert because I had my other Ender 3s basically printing out whatever design was going to get stuck onto the front of it. I liked back in the day when I would do my research on what were cool, best-selling hitch covers, and they were always like the higher-end ones that were made out of metal, and they were powder-coated in like those nice high-gloss powder coat colors. And of course, you can't really get that with a 3D printer. Even if you're doing multicolor printing, it never really comes out like high gloss, right? There's always a matte to it. It's always sort of flat. But doing a 2-part resin pour, you can get that glossy finish. And if you mix in some UV inhibitor into the resin to keep the resin from yellowing as fast, it can stay nice for quite a while. So it's a surprisingly long amount of time. And so that was the variation that I would throw on it, is I would basically print these faces semi-hollow, and then I'd fill these with a 2-part colored resin that cured in like 15-20 minutes, hard as a rock, and then ready to go, right? And again, mixed in with the UV inhibitor, they last outside in the Texas summer for quite a while. I then used to do variations, and so I would always continue to print out the hitch cover or the insert portion, but then I would find new ways. So then I would print out black acrylic, or not print out, but I would cut out black acrylic on my laser cutter, and then I'd have my vinyl cutter busy doing designs, and I'd basically lay a vinyl over the black acrylic that was attached to my hitch insert, and I could do variation after variation after variation. I probably had 50 or 60 different hitch cover designs that I sold over the years. And I tried to make them easier every single time for me to make, but high quality enough to where I could charge a premium and they would sell consistently. So I think there's lots of opportunity out there for you to find a bunch of different hitch cover designs and go forward. And that's the nice thing too, is you kind of just find out what's popular now. And make a variation on what's popular, whether it's a meme, whether it's a trend, whether, whatever it is. But there's got to be something in your neck of the woods that's popular that's going to go on the back of somebody's car or truck. Next one, resin printers. So if you need an excuse to get into resin printing, keycaps is your reason. I was not into resin printing a few years ago. I had a customer I was doing design work for, and the product that they wanted prototyped was going to be done in resin because it was super detailed, and I didn't have a resin printer, and he couldn't find anyone to reliably do it for him. So I said, well, forget it. I'll buy the resin printer. I'll print your product out, and I'll figure out how to make money with this resin printer later on. And keycaps was the way I did it. I printed out some jewelry and like some earrings and some necklaces and things like that. Keycaps went kind of crazy. As many versions of hitch covers that I had for my FDM printer, I had at least that many for keycaps. MX Cherry compatible keycaps in whatever design you can throw on them. That's something that you think someone will like. The designs are super easy to come up with. There are tons and tons of different models readily available out there for the keycaps themselves and the stems. For you to find something to stick on top of it is a very simple process. I'm sure that you can come up with a dozen tomorrow if you have a resin printer. Or if you don't have a resin printer and you want to have an excuse, go do that. Keycaps bought me 3 resin printers. And they were almost exclusively dedicated to keycaps. So, that's a good one. Like I said, keycaps are way to go. This is another version. This is my Nuke Cloud. This one sits on my escape key to this day. I sold a ton of these. Love it. A little bit of know-how in Mesh Mixer and how to use some of the sculpting tools to make some clouds and how to merge that with the keycap STL. The sky's the limit, literally. You can do some damage with some keycaps. And then this one was a variation where I would use my 3D printer. This is a big D20 dice, right? Big D20 die. And I would use the 3D printers to basically print out the brackets that all the faces attached onto. Then I'd use my laser cutter to basically just engrave the numbers and cut the shapes out. There are so many different variations you can do on fonts, on designs that go on to the sides. Instead of doing a D20, you could do a D6, a D10, whatever. But there are lots of different variations on this. And I think the bigger the better, right? I think the size of this one was like 6 or 8 inches across. And it was pretty stout. I mean, it wasn't a cheap shipping bill, but I sold plenty of them, and they were fun to do. I used to sell them as a kit version and as a fully assembled version. The kit version ended up ironically being more work for me to support the customer because inevitably there was always a question on or some confusion about how to orient each one of these so that the faces lined up in the right order and things like that. So over time, I just said, forget it, and I'm only going to do them as a fully assembled version. So so there you go. There's 5 examples. I hope these are new to you. I mean, I'm sure everyone's heard of hitch covers and keycaps and stuff like that. So hopefully this gives you an idea if you're trying to get something kick-started. Some different variations you can throw in your shop. So like and subscribe. Really appreciate it. Have fun. Talk to you soon.